Good evening, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to round number 10 of the season for the Realistic Performance League in Singapore. I'm JeffTM53, your commentator for this evening. I'm delighted to say that joining me for another great onset of action here with the Invictus Racing League, it's JPH99, otherwise known as Jordan. How are you doing today, friend?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good. It's last race of Singapore for the week, and it's fair to say it's been eventful for all the week, so it should continue into RP.
Yeah, there's been a lot of action over the last week in terms of Singapore. There's been a lot of chaos, a lot of carnage, and some really good driving and results all the way through in terms of being, obviously, round 10 of the season, 19 corners here at Singapore. Lots of close proximity to the walls around here, and we'll have our drivers tonight in the Realistic Performance League trying to navigate their way through and make up maybe for some results they might have had in the earlier tiers. Jordan, my first question that I'm going to ask you for tonight is a bit of a morbid one, so to speak. I say morbid, but no one's obviously going to pass away in the race. Is how many safety cars do we think we're going to have tonight?
Well, I mean, the chances are pretty good. I mean, 75% chance so far for IRL. I mean, we had at least one safety car in 3 of the 4 equal performance tier races. So the chance is pretty high, and it also very much depends on what the weather does, because yesterday we had a dry to wet race, and when the rain came in, all carnage ensued.
Well, we don't know yet quite what the weather is going to play out. Of course, for those that are new to Invictus Racing League, we've got a sprint race to start off with, and then we go into the main feature race that you can see on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, actually 10 laps for the sprint and then 31 for the main event. Now, in terms of whilst Jord gets himself ready to let us know about what the starting grid will be for tonight's race, let me just run you through the championship standings and those that are currently occupying the top 6 places. So it's Merck leading the way on 232 points. He has a 36-point advantage over Ryan in second place. The amazing thing about Ryan, excuse me, is that he's not had a race win this season. He's occupying second in the standings. Third is MDJ on 159, but he isn't racing tonight, I believe. So there's a chance for Cameron, who is in fourth in the championship, same amount of points on 159, chance for him to overtake. Then it's Owen in fifth place on 149 points, just 10 further back. He's also in tonight. And SFR Martin, the last of the top 6, in sixth place on 145. Very close from third through to sixth, just 14 points separating the 4 drivers. In terms of the championship, the constructors, we have a Seller leading the way on 377 points. That's, of course, Merck and SFR Martin. Second is AGS on 329, both Ryan and MDJ. And then third, it's Bottom Gear, which is Cameron and Owen on 308 points. Way further back on 221 is Fast Cats, which consists of Ginger Tiger, who's 7th, and Nitro Gash in 9th. And Joe's Lost Sandwich is on 169. So that is the championship standings as we face them going into round 10 tonight.
Yeah, and the grid order for tonight with the car allocations. We are missing one in Nitrogash. Looks like he's unable to join, but it will be Phantom and Simon of 1 and 2, Ferrari and McLaren respectively. Then Ginger Tiger in an Alpine, Owen in a Williams, Joe Hamster in a Mercedes. If Nitrogash were here, he'd be starting 6th, but he's not. So Martin 6th in a Williams, Ryan 7th in an Alfa Romeo, Mert in 8th in an Alfa Tauri, Cameron Searle is 9th in a Haas, Sir Spud 10th in a Red Bull, Atsu is 11th in a Mercedes, and Keza will be 12th and last in a McLaren.
So that is the grid order that we have here then ready for tonight's race, and we are just moments away. We're getting ready and making sure everybody's prepared and set up. In terms of the 2 on the front row, of course, you've got Phantom and Simon, as Jordan rightfully said. Jord, How do you fancy, in the sprint race anyway, Phantom and Simon's chances? Because they're both in decent cars as part of the performance update, and limited opportunities to overtake around here, especially in the sprint. Reckon they've got a chance of the win?
There is a chance, especially Simon in the McLaren. He's been gifted a slightly nicer car than he had last week, ever so slightly, but it's still going to be tough, especially with the likes of those behind them. It just depends how well they get away off the grid.
So we'll see how the drivers do get on and react round this circuit. I must also say, we can just see loads of people who are watching in so far this evening can also say, no, it's not supposed to say RP in the TF. Well, rather, it should say RP in the in the stream, but for some reason it says Tier 4. I did change that, but not to worry. We'll edit it afterwards so that nobody knows. Renz is saying, Jord, we seem to... I think there is something going on with our microphones. It's definitely a setting somewhere between me and you, Jord, that you seem to echo for whatever reason, but when I'm not around, it doesn't echo at all. I don't know what that is, but Renz is saying, are you all alone in an arena?
Well, it depends. I mean, very small arena, but, it could be classed as arena, I guess. No, it is a bit of a strange one, and because whenever I host the stream on a Wednesday, I don't get anything like that, so it's definitely an odd one.
Yeah, very odd. I don't quite understand why that's the case and why it's happening, but hopefully you'll be able to at least hear Jordan loud and clear in any case, and we will get ourselves underway shortly. But we are waiting for a little bit. I wonder if the team are still trying to wait to get Nitric Ash in. That's probably one that I think maybe he will join. As Jordan said, he might not, though, so we'll wait to find out about that. What about, though, coming back to it, there's some plot points to discuss about the Realistic Performance League, and one of them is Ryan. I mentioned it at the start. He's not had a race win, a feature race. He's won a sprint earlier in the season, but he's not won a feature race. Second in the championship in this season. He's had a good season, hasn't he, Jordan? I think he's really drove well and just showing you how important consistency is across the board.
Yeah, absolutely, and consistency is even more important with RP because you don't get a qualifying, and the points are so different in comparison to equal performance. Obviously 25 for a win here, obviously 22 for second, and you score as long as you finish. So this league really emphasises the whole idea of make sure you finish the race. Even if you're having a really bad race, just make sure you finish because you get points, and at the end of the day, if you retire, you could have got, say, 5 points, and you lose the championship by 4, you're going to kick yourself for not finishing that particular race. So it's going to be... there's a big emphasis on finishing for this league.
That's exactly it, and we're still waiting to find out, of course, what exactly is going on. We're 7 minutes past the dot at the moment, and we're just waiting for a couple of people to join, I still believe. Jordan, I don't know if you've got any more information regarding that. I'm just looking in the... Oh, there we go, actually. Atsu has just announced it, just as I was about to say, if you could see what's going on. But 10 laps for the sprint to start off with. The drivers will be preparing themselves. What do you think's the key around here, Jordan, in terms of your setup and getting a good result? What do you need?
You're going to probably see quite high wings around here. Obviously, it's sort of Monaco-esque in terms of the street circuit element and the 90-degree bends. But you've got to be careful because it is slightly slippy in certain areas. So it's, again, this is all about keeping the car out of the walls, keep your front wing. And just try and stay out of the mess because we've seen it's so easy to lose your wheel around this circuit.
It is very easy. It's one of those circuits where there's jeopardy at every corner. There's a couple of locations on circuit that have been catching a few drivers out so far this week. The exit of turn 3 seems to be quite a difficult traction zone in this game. It's always been quite difficult to navigate anyway. Turn 5, there's been the odd spin on the curb. I've noticed from the sessions. Turn 9 was catching out a few people at the left-hander, and as always, the entrance to Anderson Bridge on the left-hand side at turn 12, that can cause a few bits of grief for drivers if they're caught out by it. The curbs round here, I think you'd agree, Jordan, are really, really slippy around here. For whatever reason, they feel more so than most tracks.
Yeah, there's very few curbs you can attack. They tend to just bobble the car a little bit and just make the back end slide. So yeah, very few curves you can really attack. But the ones that you can attack, you need to attack to get the line. I mean, and just to add to your corners of where people have had errors, we've also had errors at turn 8, Stamford.
Yeah.
Which is the almost 90 right, which is quite tight. Also, turn 14 at Connaught. That's also caught a few drivers out this week.
Yeah, both of those two. I know. You've reminded me actually of turn 8. This when cars go 2x2 through there, it always ends up wrong. And turn 14 can snap at the exit, and drivers can get pinched where the wall kicks in a little bit. Now, I've got some inside information to say that apparently is rain coming at the end of the race. Now, I don't know whether this is the sprint or the feature. But if it's anything like last night where there's absolute carnage, the drivers are going to have to factor that in terms of the setups. Now, it's mitigated slightly around Singapore because the cars are set up a little bit more inclined towards an easier wet weather race. What I mean by that is higher front wings and rear wings, typically on a dry setup. The suspension settings are slightly lifted as well because of the bumpy nature of the track and hitting the curbs. So it might make it a little bit easier, but this league is anything but easy, realistically. We can both agree.
Yeah, and I mean, like I say, on yesterday we had a dry to wet race. Obviously, that was a full feature race, and it got wet very quickly. I mean, Owen made an absolutely blinding call. He came into the pits as soon as it started to rain. And he was really unlucky, the fact that a virtual safety car ended up coming out because of people on slicks on a wet track, because it got wet very, very quickly. So that's something to really bear in mind, because it is even though we've got this newer layout that takes out the two chicanes that go like under the hotel section, I think, it's still a very long lap to get caught out on slicks.
Yeah, 1 minute 35, the fastest lap from this year's race, set by Hamilton and the Mercedes. So there's still quite a long way to go around this track. I still hanker for the return of the two chicanes under the hotel. It's being renovated at the moment. Those that are wondering, it will return back to that layout even next year or the year after, they're saying. So it would be good to have that section of track back, make it even more of a difficult and demanding race, even for drivers who are playing on console, even those that are playing on the PC. You know, it's very demanding if you're on a wheel, and the concentration levels you need around a circuit such as Singapore is massive. But here we go then. We've got the 5 red lights coming up here at Singapore for the sprint. And the race is live. Looks like a relatively equal start between the front row as we hurdle towards turn 1. Phantom's going to be in the lead of the race. That's the Alpine and the Williams getting together into turn 2. They should be okay. They all are. They're just about darting through fine. Spud's dropped down to last place as far as I can see. Ryan's up to 5th. That's a good start. He's fighting side by side with Joe Hamster into that. Oh, there's contact, and that's a Haas round as well. I think that's Cameron who's been caught up in that. There was contact, and sadly that's just took 2 of them out of the out of the race. That is a shame.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Cameron and Ryan. Just a note on tyres. 3 people opting for the softs. They are Phantom, Simon and Keza, the rest on medium. So it'll be interesting to see how that strategy works and whether this rain is for the sprint race, because if it is, the soft runners could have a good run here. Yeah,
apparently according to the let's say pit lane reporter, it is apparently going to rain in the sprint. So let's see how we get on. Phantom has gotten himself up and off the road. He's a second clear of Simon already. Then you got the two behind of Ginger Tiger and Owen, but Owen already looking to try and put that pressure on the Alpine in front of him as they head towards turn 14. That's a good exit actually from the Williams. He's going to be on the inside of turn 15, completely flat in these cars, and then the heavy braking zone into turn 16. Little bit later braking for Owen. He's going to go through, and Ginger Tiger had to give that up. That was a nice opportune move from Owen, and he's into 3rd place. Let's see how he gets on.
Yeah, Phantom leads there on to lap number 2. Merckx is on the back of Atsu, but he just can't quite find a way past yet. Looks like Keza looking to line a move up on Martin as they go into turn number 1, but again, thinking better of it, just a little bit too far back as they head through 3 and 4.
And Keza right on the back. We're following on board with the McLaren, the soft shod McLaren we're riding on board with, as Jordan mentioned earlier. Phantom and Simon, the only other two who've decided to go for that soft tyre, the red-walled Pirelli compound. We've got Joe leading this group of, well, 5 cars, because Merck's right there as well. Merck down in 9th place, but he's still gaining points on Ryan, who sadly got caught up in that incident early on in the first lap at turn 5. I did say it was a corner that's a point of contention. It's already claimed 2 drivers in the form. Cameron, who's in the pits as well, he's gone for the soft tyres. But this is now going to be a new fight. Joe's just about hanging on to the back of Ginger Tiger, who in turn is trying to hang on to Owen. At this stage in the race, Jordan, what are you looking for? Are you going to be trying to go for those moves early on? Are you going to try and wait maybe a lap or 2 in the sprint before trying to attack later on in the race when maybe the conditions change a bit?
I think, again, it very, very much depends what you think the weather's going to do. If the weather's going to come in, you kind of want to try and get past the people early, use that DRS to your advantage and get on off at the road, as I think Martin and Joe Hamster side by side, and Joe Hamster 5th and Keza looking, I believe that was Martin attempting an overtake on Joe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was. And look at this, Keza, we're on board him. He's going to get the slipstream from the Mercedes in front. A bit of contact between himself and Martin. That forces the McLaren out wide. And Martin's going to let that go. So he decides better of it, and he's not going to fight too hard. Now, Keza will have DRS because he's within a second of the activation zone where the DRS is, so he's going to be fine. He's not going to be under pressure. Atsu, though, looking to try and attack the Williams in front of him. Not quite close enough. But the front 2 have got away from Owen. Then 3 seconds clear. Atsu right underneath the rear wing of the Williams in front. But those 2 have pulled clear, and this is what they needed early on in this race.
Yes, what they need is, it looks like Merckx has a run down towards the Singapore Sling. Down the inside he goes, and move completed. Not really anything Atsu can do there, because once someone's on your inside, you either got to back out of it or you take a trip to the wall on the outside. So nicely done for Merckx. He's now in the points for the sprint race, top 8 score for the sprint.
Yeah, that is the final point spot. We got Atsu there. Sir Spud's in 10th place. He's just trundling around at the moment. He's a good few seconds behind. I don't know if Sir Spud has made a mistake out on circuit, but I'm going to cut forward because Simon is right with Phantom. He extended his gap. I thought Phantom was going to pull away near the start of the race and go off into the sunset, but that is not the case. The McLaren has closed that gap right down, and Simon was saying to me before that his target is to try and get a sprint win. He'd like a feature race podium if he can. He knows that's going to be difficult. Merck going up to 7th place, so the AlphaTauri making its moves when needed. But we've got Simon coming around towards turn 4, then turn 5, runs a little bit wide at the apex, and I think that might just have cost him on this lap.
Yeah, running wide isn't ideal, but obviously the DRS is quite powerful down towards the Memorial Corner. Meanwhile, Merck's having a look at Keza. He's going to the inside with DRS, and he's going to make that move stick into turn 7. I must admit, Merck was very, very quick last night. Cameron Saw setting fastest lap of the race at 1:31.1 in the Haas with his new set of boots. But yeah, Merck was very quick last night, so I've been expecting some good pace from him. Possibly, if it stays green all the way, I don't think he'll get the sprint win because of the traffic he has to get through, but he certainly won't be far away from it.
No, not at all. Merck's been unbelievable this season. 5 race wins to his name, feature race wins, that is. He's been the class of the field. Do you think if you were in a race lobby like this, Jordan, you had Merck who continuously wins, how demoralising is that if you're in a championship fight with him to know that this is a driver who just doesn't seem to make mistakes in this RP league?
Yeah, I mean, the way I would look at it is it's not a bad thing. You've got a target to go for, as he's lining up a move here on Joe Hamster. I think he's going to not quite go for it yet. But yeah, it creates a bit of a target for you. There's a bit of an aspiration. And in reality, it just makes it even sweeter if you do manage to beat him on track, because everyone knows how good he is.
Well,
Joe
Joe
Hamster picks
Hamster,
up 3
yeah,
seconds.
just about to say that. He just tried to extend the corner a little bit too much, and that's going to drop him out of the top 8 if they finish as they are currently. He'll lose out on the points. But Merck's got a job to do. He's got to try and find a way through. He's looking to the outside at turn number 8. Joe's giving him a little bit of room here, perhaps too much. Merck's going to be on the inside at the next corner. But Joe should have a run, but he gets a bit of a snap of oversteer mid-corner. He's going to be fighting it towards the old Singapore sling, but he's not going to get that move and that position back. And Merck is in the top 5, and the alarm bells are going to be ringing for Ginger Tiger, because he's the next car that Alpha Tower is going to be pointing its nose at.
Yeah, it was good racing between Merck and Joe there to make sure room was given on every corner, especially the Stamford corner at turn 8. It's not, as we've seen, not impossible to go side by side, but both drivers have to respect each other through there. Meanwhile, Martin all over the back of Kezin. I wonder, are those softs starting to...
Oh, and that is going to be... Is there going to be a safety car? It is. That looked too...
That looked weird.
It looked very odd. I was riding with Martin. It looked like he just ran into the back of the McLaren. Couple of cars bolting into the pit lane, and you wouldn't blame them. And that is pretty much... It's going to be Joe in the pits. I think Atsu, yeah, Keza's coming in, although Keza might be questionable about the pit entry there. So for those drivers, they're going to bolt on a set of softs. This is going to frustrate Phantom and Simon. They were 4 seconds clear of Owen and looked pretty much set to have their own private battle for the race victory, but that's no longer the case. The Aston Martin safety car has just picked them up. That's very frustrating for those two, no doubt.
Yeah, it's interesting. Spud's gone for track position here on his mediums. We know in the past how strong fresh tyres are, especially when they're the soft compound. However, as we've also seen, it's not easy to overtake around it. But yeah, Phantom and Simon, I mean, this will to a degree help them a little bit, because obviously they're not going to take so much out of their softs whilst under this safety car. But the other thing as well with the safety car, it's going to bring the chance of rain higher, because it's going to take longer for them to get around these laps.
It will do, and it's also pleasant news for both Ryan and Cameron. They've just pitted again, so they've got something to fight for in these remaining few laps. But everyone from 7th down has got a brand new, fresh set of soft tyres on, and as Jordan aforementioned there, that is typically quite powerful on F1 23, this new game. I say new game because it is the current game. But we are looking forward to these last few laps, and I imagine as well that we'll probably have, if the safety car comes in at lap, I would imagine lap 8, the start of lap 8, we'll probably only have DRS for 1 lap, and that'll be on the final lap, so we've got a blockbuster finish coming towards us.
Yeah, and that will make it more interesting. Then it becomes a battle of ERS instead of DRS. How good are you on your ERS? I mean, in reality, everyone should now be picking up their battery behind the safety car. So it will be everyone at 100% and everyone with a full deployment to go. So it just depends how you use it. And I'll tell you, that kind of shows you just how slow it is behind the safety car. 2 minutes 16 time behind it.
Yeah, that's 40 odd seconds slower than the fastest lap. Let's have a look at the fastest laps so far in this race, if we can bring it up on the board. It is a 31, and it's from Cameron, although Cameron was in fresh air. So if we look a little bit further back, Simon with a 32.7, so just showing you he's got some speed tonight on those soft tyres earlier on in the stint. Obviously the medium drivers weren't going to go as quick as that at the early point of this race. Whilst we're under the safety car, just a quick mention, of course, welcome to everybody who is just tuning in. We're under safety car thanks to contact between Keza and SFR Martin between turn 15 and 16. And also a good mention and a good thank you to our partners with Grid Finder. You can go and find loads of different leagues out there in the world that you can go and support and get involved in, whether that be on Xbox, PC or PlayStation. But as I always say when I'm promoting Grid Finder, you're here for a reason. You want to stay with Invictus. And also to Venturi Studio as well for creating a haven for top tier livery and graphic design, bringing your fantasy into reality. And right now, the fantasy and reality for Ryan and Cameron, their fantasy was getting a safety car, Jord. It's going to bring them right back. Although, having said that, Cameron is some way behind. He's got to, I imagine if it comes in the next lap, the safety car, he'll be okay. But if it comes in now, I can't see him catching that queue.
Yeah, it could be an interesting one. Let's see what the safety car does. But yeah, I believe he came in the pits obviously for another fresh set of softs. I mean, he's at the back anyway, so no real loss for him to come back in and get a new set of boots. But it looks like we're not going to go racing yet.
No, it
which
doesn't.
means no DRS till the end of this race.
So that's another ointment realistically for the two soft runners at the front to be happy to add to their bow, because it'll be more difficult for the drivers behind now to get past them on that run out of turn number 5. Jordan, if possible, could you invite Nitro into the lobby? He said he will join for the main race.
I have looked. I believe Cameron's going to be doing it for him.
Oh, that's very kind.
But
whole of the Invictus, yeah, the whole of the Invictus community trying to help everybody out there. Hopefully, we can get Nitro in. We will see.
Just what I picked up on as well, Phantom coming up towards the last couple of corners. It looked like his line was looking like he was going into the pit lane. I don't know if he was kind of trying to dupe out Simon and Owen or someone behind, but I don't think it's quite going to work in a sprint when everyone's packed up behind the safety car.
No, not at this point. I mean, if to rightly point out, George, as you've just mentioned, the gap between first and 11th is 7 seconds, which is nowhere near enough to make a pit stop. So I don't think Simon or the cars behind are probably going to fall for that. But it's as Phantom slammed right on the brakes, and they caught Simon out there. I think Phantom was just trying to get some temperature into his brakes, but nonetheless, nothing happened. They carry on, no contact. That's all about. But psychologically, Phantom's going to try and use every tactic at his disposal in that lead car at the field, in the Ferrari. He's going to want to try and, even if it doesn't work, it's just a case of Phantom trying to prolong his time at the front. And who can argue with him trying to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they say on a track like this, where defending is a lot easier than other tracks, it's always worth a shout. But the one thing Phantom and Simon do have to do here is use whatever grip they've got left in those soft tyres to get away early, to try and negate Owen behind.
It's going to be very tough. So we've got a safety car underway here, and it's going to be going into the pits in just 3 corners time. So Phantom is the lead car. We're following Simon as we approach turn 16, the right-hander. Phantom just weaving, getting a bit of temperature into his tyres. Safety car still not in the pits, and I think it'll limit Phantom's throttle, to be honest. At some stage, he has gone though, so I'm a little bit surprised at that. I wasn't expecting Phantom to have pulled as far away as he did, but the problem for Simon is that Owen is all over his diffuser. He's looking to the outside line at turn 1 as they approach that corner for the 9th time of asking. Simon remains in front. Joe's making a move. He's past the Spud already, and that's important with his penalty. He's got to get a move on, but those front 2 looking like they're under pressure already.
Yeah, it was a good restart from Phantom. I think it did limit it for about a quarter of a second when he was in 5th gear, but he got away with it. Owen looking to bounce, so he just couldn't quite find that gap. Meanwhile, Atsu's looking at the back of Sir Spud down towards Memorial Corner. He backs out of that one, knowing he's not quite alongside enough to warrant making the overtake. He looked to the outside of turn 8, but again, not quite there.
No, he's going to go round the outside. He's going to try it again. He's going to go all the way around the outside. And look at Keza going through with him as well. Those medium tyres on Spud's car compared to the new fresh softs just isn't working. In fact, Spud just letting everybody go. He knows better. And that's good sportsmanship from Spud. So everybody gains a place.
I'm pretty certain I've seen some spots of rain falling. It's not hard enough yet to create a wet surface, but if it does become wet enough, we're going to have an interesting final lap here. Yeah,
it is raining. It's looking quite difficult already for some of the drivers. The top 4 can I also say I did see this, but we didn't cover it. Merck made an amazing overtake around the outside at turn 5 on Ginger Tiger, and he's trying to get on the podium. Which who would have expected that? That is a fight there for 5th place. Joe trying to go and use those soft tyres as quickly as he can. That's Atsu having a huge slide out of the corner. And that is Joe up to 5th. Oh, what a move from Keza. What a move. That's a great overtake. 2 for the price of 1. As he approaches turn 1, he should consolidate that position. He does, and he's into 6th place, and it's probably going to be a net 5th. Rain is falling. Phantom still leads. We're on the final lap of the race, and the tricky conditions now are going to be slippery. Spud decided why not. He's going to go for intermediates.
I mean, you never know what might happen if this rain comes down hard. If it's not at the moment, but it's worth the gamble, I think, in Sir Spud's shoes. Meanwhile, Ginger Tiger is under severe attack at the moment from Atsu into turn number 7. Atsu can't quite make it, but that could allow Ryan to the outside of him into turn 8, side by side. Oh, he's going to get tight, squeeze against the wall. He's going to get away with it as he stays down the inside of Padang, but he's not quite going to have the traction. Although, can he stick it down the inside of the sling? The answer's no.
There's a huge 5-6 car fight for the race lead. Simon went into the back of Phantom, caused the big slide. Simon is right there. He wants that feature race, well, best starting position, but he wants that sprint victory to go with it as well. But the grip conditions just looking like they're a little bit looser. I don't think it's going to be enough now to cause any problems. Simon looking to the inside as they approach turn 14. On the brakes they go. They all just line up together. Joe's trying to go through. He's got the best tyres of anybody in the top 6 alongside Keza. We've got one last real overtaking opportunity. Martin's going to look for it. They're going to go side by side. Phantom might just hang on here. Simon gets a little bit of a tag from Merckx. I think it's going to be Phantom. He's just about going to hold on at the final 2 corners. He tiptoes his way through in these conditions. It's a win for the American. It's a win for Phantom. It's Owen who takes 2nd. Simon deposited 3rd in the end thanks to Owen's overtake on the last lap. Merckx, Keza gets 5th thanks to Joe's penalty that drops him all the way down out of the points. That was a frenetic final lap. And let's give Spud some time in the sun on his shiny intermediates.
And look at the gaps between people. Atsu 0.051 away from Ginger. Cameron 0.043. Joe was 0.096 from not being the last in that group because of his penalty. That is some fantastic racing at the end of that race for those sorts of gaps.
That was really good. That last lap really just placed an emphasis on how important it is to save just a little bit of battery and being able to defend. But Phantom surviving to take his first victory here in RP. A great result for him. Keza getting driver of the day for the sprint, which after his double overtake, brilliantly timed. I'd definitely give it him and go his way with it. But just having a look to see just a couple of comments from a few drivers in the Discord there. I'll come back to those in a moment. But just to confirm, Phantom with his first victory in the Realistic Performance League. Owen in 2nd, Simon in 3rd at the end. Merck finishing 4th after starting 8th place with Keza, Ginger Tiger, Atsu and Cameron rounding out the point scorers. Ryan outside of the points, as was Joe. Sir Spud, who decided to pit for Inters. And Martin, the only retirement from the session.
Yeah, and they kind of got away with one there with the rain. That could have easily gone very south for the runners there. It was in the end very well driven to keep it all out of the wall.
They did keep it out of the wall indeed, and they will be getting themselves prepared and ready now for the feature. And to be fair, Sir Spud's just said he did take a gamble. It was a gamble. The rain didn't go from slick to blue extreme Pirelli wet, sadly for Spud in time, but in any case he decided to roll the dice and that's what it's all about. So Phantom on pole position again. He'll have Owen alongside him. He'll have Simon Palmer directly behind and then Merckx in 4th place. Got a very interesting front 4 of the field. I think there's going to be quite a few battles in the opening few laps.
Yes, it's certainly going to be interesting when that occurs. Looks like Nitrogash has ended up in a Red Bull, which isn't his allocated car, but I don't know if there's a lot that can be done about that. Be interesting to see what the weather is for this race, whether we're potentially expecting any rain in this one.
Hopefully we'll go over to our pit lane reporter who's there, Mr. Let's call him, how shall I call him? Plotted Spud. Hopefully he'll be able to give us a bit of an update in terms of the weather. For those that don't know how to grow potatoes, you plot them and then the rain falls down. That's what that hint was. But 31 laps around Singapore for this feature race. It's not an easy circuit. To give you a bit of information about Singapore in terms of its racing history before we get going, the first Grand Prix was actually in 1961. They never used to race around the Marina Bay area. They used to race further inland in the sort of in the outskirts. Quite a long circuit it ran from the 60s through to 73. Sadly, there was a few fatal accidents that year, and that stopped the racing going on in Singapore. But it's always been a nation that's longed for smaller formula. There was a lot of Formula Libre action going on in the 70s and the 80s as well, and then the developments in 2006 when they announced the Marina Bay Circuit over the Anderson Bridge, that iconic bridge that was featured heavily in the promotion for the early races. You know, £140 million spent in terms of developing a track. And I know that me and you have talked about street circuits before, Jordan. I know that we've got our different opinions on it, but if we look at Singapore as the template street circuit, not comparing that to Canada, because that's in a few weeks' time when we come to it in RP. But this is, I'd argue, probably one of the best street circuits in that sense.
Yeah, it's as we know, street circuits are always difficult to get absolutely right most of the time because of the nature of where street circuits are based, which is, as we know, normally in cities. It's normally very 90-degree bendish for the majority. So in that respect, it is one of the model street circuits of the modern era, let's say, because obviously Monaco isn't quite as 90-degree bendy,
No.
but that is a very classical circuit. But of a modern era, I mean, you look at the likes of Baku, obviously you have in Singapore,
Vegas.
and the point you got Vegas. You can't really, I wouldn't say you can really count into to like Miami, because it's not, in my opinion, it's not a true street circuit because it was purpose built for it. But over to you, Jack.
It was indeed. So we got the 5 red lights for the feature here at Singapore. And the race is live. Here we go then towards turn 1, 31 laps. And you've got Phantom leading the way. You've got Mercked already up the inside. That's a good overtake. He's going to be in 3rd place as they approach turn 3. The two McLarens are 4th and 5th. A little bit of contact between Ginger Tiger and the rear left of Kez's McLaren. No damage done. Atsu makes an advantage of that. Then he's in 6th place. Cameron's there in 8th place. Ryan's outside the top 10 currently. Nitro in a Red Bull apparently might get disqualified for it. But let's see what he does in the Red Bull, because I think it'd be interesting to see just how he gets on in that car. It's not his allocation, not that he could do much about it. But Phantom leads, and let's have a look at those tyres, Jord.
Yeah, tyre-wise, it's not quite 50-50, but we do have 5 runners on the mediums of Joe Hamster, Keza, Simon, Owen and Phantom. The rest on hard tyres, and we already have a little bit of damage. Joe Hamster is missing an end plate already, as that is a Alpine of Ginger Tiger and wide through the sling, and also now losing a place to Martin. But yeah, Joe Hamster, I think he clipped the back of someone and lost the right end plate.
This is the worst track to have any damage on in the Formula 1 calendar. Oh, Ginger Tiger getting hit in the back. Something's wrong with Ginger Tiger's guy. He's got no front wing. That's exactly why. So that's 2 cars in the walls already. Ryan will take 2 places going into turn number 14. He's got Sir Spud, who's going to move himself into the top 10 as well. Don't forget, in the Realistic Performance League, all drivers who finish score points. But at the front, the man leading the way, who's been informed tonight, it's Phantom. He's a second clear of Owen. Clearly a fast starter, Phantom. He just has this ability to just pull away right at the start of the race. Maybe just a little bit more switched on and eager to get going.
Yeah, it's it does help he is in a Ferrari.
It does.
Well, that is a bit of a help for him. But we also know that the tyre wear in the Ferrari is slightly worse than most of the cars, so he's got to be careful not to burn out his tyres too early. It is a very long race round here, and you do have to look after your tyres. As we have people in the pits for, I think all of it's going to be new front wings and some tyres. Joe Hamster on the soft compound.
So Joe then committed himself to another stop, probably looking to go either 2 stops potentially. He could do soft, medium to the end of the race. We expect that the tyres, they should be pretty much fine around here, around Singapore. They do typically, rather than having a cliff period, they just deteriorate through the race, and by about lap 15 the medium tyres will be looking pretty sorry for themselves, depending of course what car you're in. Now the Williams of Owen has closed that gap right the way back down to Phantom, so clearly getting up to speed just a lap or so later in that Williams compared to the Ferrari's performance advantage. Merc there in third, the two McLarens fourth and fifth, the top five all within a second of one another. Then it's Atsu with Cameron, SFR Martin. Ryan's a little bit further back in ninth place, and Spud, the only other driver not to have pitted in the top 10. Well, he hasn't pitted, of course, compared to the other 9 cars. They haven't pitted too, but he is in 10th place. The rest of those 3 quite a way behind and praying for a safety car, and that is Atsu round.
Yeah, round at turn 1, turn 2. I think he's probably just taken a bit too much curb through turn 1. It just unsettled the rear end of the car. But it looks like Owen now starting to get into that groove. It just looks like the driver's behind rather than trying to go blasting into it into turn 1. Maybe just all trying to make sure they find their rhythm before they go attacking others on circuit. Because Owen is not losing any time to Phantom anymore, and he's gradually reeling in that Ferrari.
Yeah, it looks like he is in that groove, as you say, Jordan. Let's see if Owen looking, of course, for that first victory for quite some time. I keep referring back to Monza quite often, but that's because that was the high point of the season for the bottom gear driver, his teammate in 6th place. They're both looking for a strong set of finishes tonight, are those two, but they're going to have to get past Phantom, who I know he's in the Ferrari, but I'm still quite impressed with his performance tonight so far. A sprint win, rather. Don't let me trip over my own words. But he's got that victory under his belt, and that'll do him a world of good for the rest of the race. But he does have Owen, and he does have Merck behind him, and both of them are very rapid.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more pressure when you're in a feature race, because you know the points are bigger. It's a bit more almost like more of a proper win, because you're doing a half of a real life race distance. So a little bit more management involved, and that sort of pressure from Owen and Merckx, and let's face it, Simon's not too far behind as well. Yeah, you just got to see how Phantom deals with this sort of pressure of having top tier drivers behind him, as Owen looking to the inside now with DRS. A bit of a collision on the entry. Both of them go wide, and Merckx says thank you very much, I'll take that invitation. Phantom in the wars, he looks to rejoin. It looks like he's collided with the side of Kez's car, and we have the first safety car of this feature race. It
looked like Owen squeezed Phantom into the wall. I'm not making any assumptions, just from the angle that I had. I could be completely wrong, but it looked like there was just a bit of a squeeze. They locked wheels. Merckx went through and said, as George said, thank you very much. And then it looked as if Phantom tried to rejoin the circuit, and he actually hit the side of Simon's car. Simon did nothing wrong. He was on the racing line. He was allowed to take that place up. So I'm sure Phantom won't be pleased about that. And I think, sadly, I've just cursed him there, haven't I, Jordan? He was leading the race, and now he's out.
Yeah, I mean, the phrase hero to zero kind of comes to mind, but to some degree it wasn't really, it was his fault, but it wasn't his fault at the same time. But yeah, very unfortunate for Phantom to go
so early.
Yeah, that's really, it's just, and this is the problem now, is that you doing a sprint race is not so bad, because at this point you're nearly halfway through the race already, but when you're doing a feature, it's a long old time. Keza deciding to come into the pits for a fresh set of boots.
Yeah, that is very early. I wonder if Keza deciding to put on a set of hard tyres. I'm following him. We're going to go into the pit lane with him. Let's just see.
They've got a wing ready for him.
So it's a front wing change, and it's a pair of soft tyres. So Keza deciding to do something different to try and help him with that front wing change. Just looking to see where everybody else is. They feel quite stretched out because of the delta timings for the safety car. In terms of, Ryan was quite a far way back from Martin briefly, and Atsu was too. So not sure if there's been a bit of a confusion. That Nitro has now retired, so we're down to 11 drivers. Has Nitro hit the wall?
I think Nitro's hit the wall.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll get a view of it because the drivers are so far behind the car will get cleared. That looks like he's hit the wall on the outside of turn 14. I just wonder if obviously the delta got lifted, and he's kind of obviously gone up to sort of race pace sort of area, and maybe just got it wrong in turn 14. But I think he was going to be disqualified anyway for incorrect car, so it's not the end of the world really for Nitro. I think he was just looking to see what sort of pace he would have had in a Red Bull.
Yeah. That is a shame. You know, Nitro was unfortunate. He couldn't get into the lobby in time. He had a... Don't think you'll mind me saying he fell asleep. So he missed the start of the race there. So it's unfortunately giving him the wrong car anyway. So a bit of a busted effort for him tonight. He did feature quite well actually. Just to give Nitro a mention, he featured quite well in Tier 4. He was running in the top 3 during the race after the earlier safety car in Tier 4 this week. And he was having some good fights at the front, but in the end he just slipped a little bit further down, and I think tonight we might have seen a little bit more from him in terms of that fight, but when you fall asleep you can't really pay attention to the wheels around you.
No, and yeah, Nitro is a quick driver, especially in terms of the Tier 4 category. I mean, it's what's so good about the equal performance tiers in IRLs. They tend to be very closely matched. You tend to find there's only 5, 6, 7, possibly 8 people that can win a race. It just depends how all the strategies for and safety cars and that play out. So it's always a good thing to have. And the nice thing with this is, obviously the lower tiers get the higher end cars, so they can fight with these guys in Tier 2, Tier 1.
Yeah, it gives them that platform to be able to go for it. Obviously, I think Merck needs his own platform in terms of racing in a Formula 2 car at this rate this season. He has been unbelievable. But we're very early on in this phase of the race at the moment. We're not even at quarter distance. So a lot can happen between now and the finish. Nitro has just confirmed he did spanner it into the wall. I'm quoting him there. So unfortunately, Nitro making a mistake under his own guise, really. I've also found out no wet weather for this race, so it's a straight dogfight, and Joe back in the pits again, this time for a set of softs. So he pitted the previous lap for hards, and now he's on softs.
This is interesting, and I'm a little bit worried here for Joe, because he's very far back, and the game doesn't tend to hesitate sometimes to bring the safety car in. This will either work out very well for Joe, and the safety car will stay out for another lap, allowing him to get up to the back of the train again, or they're going to go this lap and he's going to find himself in complete no man's land.
Well, we'll find out when it crosses this timing board in a moment as to whether or not the safety car goes in. Sometimes it can get called late, so we don't want to judge it just yet, but dare I say it, Joe is going to have another lap to try and make up 50 seconds as it stands, pretty much. So that's going to be some effort for him to try and catch up, though, because he'll be using a bit of the performance of the tyre. Oh, he runs a bit deep into into the old Singapore sling section there at turn 10, but he might use up a little bit, arguably a bit too much of his tyre, won't he, as he tries to get back up to the field.
Yeah, he's going to be he's not going to be out of complete race pace, but he's not going to be far off it to make sure he gets onto the back of the train. So, yeah, there's not going to be much tyre saving going on for the Mercedes.
What do you think of those? Because I'm looking at the two. I'm curious to see how Keza and Joe actually do in this race now, because they are realistically the only two who are on completely different strategies to everybody else. Now we know Keza opportunity.
Joe back in the pits.
So it's an right. Okay, so this is going to be difficult now for Joe, isn't it?
Looks like hard tyres is coming out.
So he had the hards on. He's gone for the softs, and now he's gone for the hards again. We'll have to find out from Joe afterwards what his plan was, why he's back in and out of the pits.
If he's trying to do a Jensen Button from Canada in 2011, he's going about it in the right way. The problem is he's a little bit far behind at the moment.
Yeah, true.
Benefit from this.
See if that works out for us. So coming back to my point, just Keza though, Do you think that Keza, opportunity is knocked for him today, made some great overtakes in the sprint before, nice opportunistic driving. I'm looking at him with him being on the softs, brand new, completely fresh, under safety car tyres as well. He's got, compared to the hard shod drivers in front of him, he's going to be very rapid at the start. If he runs the mediums to the end of the race, is he one to watch out for? Because he could take the mediums to the end at the natural end of the soft tyre, so he could be on for a very good result tonight in the McLaren if he keeps it at the wall.
Yeah, yeah. There's every chance. I mean, you can probably squeeze up to 10 laps on those soft, maybe 9, because you've done a little bit of wear under the safety car. But yeah, and the other thing is also whether he goes for a bit of an undercut as well, which we know is quite powerful around here, and Joe needs to get a move on here because the safety car's coming in.
And the hard tyre as well, if he decides to do the undercut, for those that are watching, will ride on board with Owen before Merck goes. But the hard tyre is a very good race tyre at Singapore. It's not exactly weak, so he could undercut, go for a set of hards and be able to undercut everybody, but we shall see. Joe is just about on the back of the train, so he's got himself lucky there. He's managed to get right onto the end of the queue. Merck has not gone yet. He's still waiting. He's probably going to leave it to the last possible moment, and there he goes. AlphaTauri dropping the swing hammer in the white and dark blue car. Fires off his lead. That's a Williams wide. That's Martin way wide. And that is Simon under pressure already from Cameron. To the outside goes the Haas. They make a little bit of contact. They squeeze through. So Spud is also under threat from Keza. He's already been overtaken. Actually, correct myself there. He hasn't been overtaken, but he's losing a bit of time. Keza, we're following him. He's on the outside line at turn number 5. He just needs to get the line right. He does, and he's through, and he's into 8th place. Watch that McLaren go. He's going to catch this group in front of him very quickly. But Spud is not giving up yet. He's right there. Ginger Tiger trying to go through as well. He's going to try and go around the outside. That's a lovely move. Joe can't follow him through, though. That was good racing.
Joe was almost looking at making that 3 wide then to get a double overtake, but very wisely bailed out of it. Meanwhile, Cameron still behind Simon. It was an interesting look at a first move. I think Joe's now got past Sir Spud.
He has.
Cameron looking to really spoil Simon's potential strategy there, because obviously Cameron on those hard tyres.
Yeah, that is the case, but Cameron didn't make that move stick. We'll see the inverse strategy later on for those that are wondering what I'm on about. That means that Simon, he'll need to pit. Obviously, everybody outside of Keza and Joe, they'll need to pit again. We do expect, obviously, Keza definitely to pit in any case, but for Simon, he's running the mediums. He'll need to put the hards on, relatively speaking, for the best strategy in this race at this moment in time. Cameron will go for the mediums, and that is Simon Palmer making a move on Owen into turn 1. They're leaning on one another. They just about give each other racing room. On the inside goes the McLaren. It understeers a little bit. Owen counters to that, keeps them out of trouble, and that's a lovely move from Simon into second place. I know how badly he's after a podium. He's been hunting for one. He missed out last week thanks to the botched pit stop. But Owen is trying to make sure he's a factor in this fight. Looks to the outside. Can't quite make a move. Cameron's there. Little wiggle from the Williams. Keza's through as well. Oh, Simon very deep into turn number 8. And he gets overtaken by Owen. So that was a bit frustrating for the McLaren driver because he had it all signed, sealed and delivered.
Yeah, and whilst they're all battling, Merck now 2.7 up the road and cruising, as they say. But it's a really long line here from Owen all the way back to Joe Hamster in 10th. They're all within DRS range of each other. So we have what is effectively a 9-car DRS train forming.
Yeah, we're following. I'm just on board with Keza at the moment. Not quite at the back of the queue. Here he goes to the inside. I think he actually caught himself out of his braking zone there, to be honest. So he'll have to go and fight another lap. He's going to be under pressure from Atsu. This isn't ideal. This is the last thing that Keza wants, but he should be able to use the soft tyres a bit more effectively into the braking zone. He does, and he keeps that place. But Keza's got to be careful. He can't afford to make a mistake whilst those soft tyres are still very quick at the moment compared to the hards. He needs to try and get on with it ASAP.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as if you have a spinner, that's Joe Hamster I'm going to guess he done a bit of a half a Lance Stroll and just he didn't do the other half of putting it in the wall. But he has spun on the last couple of corners, which isn't ideal for him. Meanwhile, the gaps are starting to creep because Simon outside DRS. Cameron is within DRS of Simon, though.
Yeah, I think...
Oh, and behind we've got Ryan and Keza.
Yeah, we do. And Ryan sensibly doesn't fight that one. He's in a different battle at the moment. Ryan, second in the championship, just wants to conserve points. He's not looked particularly rapid tonight. That's no discredit to him at all, of course, because Ryan is a very competent driver. He's quick. He just looks... Compared to most races so far this season, he's just not quite fighting at the sharp end. Maybe getting to grips with the Alfa Romeo around Singapore, perhaps not suiting the car that well. Ginger Tiger and Atsu together on circuit 2, but Keza is already right with the Williams of Martin in front of him. He's got DRS. He won't be close enough, I don't believe, approaching turn 14. And unless he gets an incredible exit off the corner, which he tries to do, he's not going to be close enough to overtake Martin. But that's the progress that Keza needs. He needs to be picking off a car a lap, realistically, to put himself in a fight for a podium.
Yes. Yeah, Keza had a bit of a slide coming out of 17 through Lance Strolls and onto the main straight. Keza with the DRS, he's going to look to the inside, think better of it. I think this is wise from Keza, is don't do it on this first DRS zone, do it on the second one because it's bigger and you've got more chance of actually completing the move safely.
He does. I'm just going to briefly cut forward. I reckon we can get two moves in one camera shot here because Cameron is right on the back of the rear wing of Simon, and there is not much Simon can do. He tries to go defensive, throws a shape. Simon's going to try and hold on the inside, but he can't quite do enough there, and he doesn't retain his spot. Cameron up to third. Keza didn't get through, although that is Ginger Tiger overtaking Ryan, using the mediums to good effect. Ginger wants to watch out for as well, because he's on a medium compound. He's done a lap less than everybody because he pitted at the end of lap 1, but using those tyres to good effect, and he'll be a bit of a threat to the cars in front if he can follow Keza. Ooh, Keza's really pushing hard. That was so close to the wall on the exit of turn 11 there. He just about got away with it.
Yeah, and Ginger Tiger, I think what Ryan's doing here at the moment is quite smart. Obviously, those that do have the softer compound tyre, he's not fighting too hard. He doesn't need to lose time because as we have a virtual safety car, I think that's
Joe's
Joe
in the
who's
wall,
gone round
yeah,
at the Singapore sling.
and no front wing. That was a beautiful set of rhyme in between us there, Jordan. We didn't even intend it. Now, will anybody pit? I think Owen's coming in. Yeah, he is. Owen has decided he was probably in the best place to try and do it. Cameron carries on. The medium shot, Keza comes in as well. That's going to be a potential double stack for McCall. Oh, no, Keza has carried on. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah. You're right there. It was Simon who's coming in.
Potential double stack at Williams, though.
Yeah, Owen's coming in now.
That's pretty close. I think Martin's going to get held here. Yes, he is. Very slightly.
He's going to lose about a second or two, isn't he? And that drops him definitely behind Simon Palmer. So everybody who's just took advantage of that VSC, ooh, Owen running very close to the white line there, that'll be looked at later. But the VSC will have just certainly opened up the opportunity for a couple of drivers. You know, Owen being one of those, he's within, well, he's going to be within a pit stop, I imagine, of Merck. Because let's just look at the leader gaps. Yeah, 29 seconds. And Cameron's got a drive through. Because he was... Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
He was red in his delta when it went back to green. It's obvious, I think, by that point, obviously, you get the notification to say that the VSC's ending. And naturally, as a driver, you start to pick up the pace so you can restart the race at closer to race speed. Obviously, he's just not quite timed it correctly and misjudged it. And he's just dropped into that red before it's gone green.
He's going to be so frustrated at that, isn't he? So he's going to have to serve that pretty soon. The next 3 laps, you'll see him in the pits. So that's brought. So thanks to all that, Keza now up into third place. He'll have a little bit of clear air. He's had 5 racing laps on those soft tyres, so they should still have a little bit of performance available to them. In fact, Cameron coming into the pits now to serve that drive through. Then it's Ginger Tiger and Ryan. And you've got Atsu, who's going to move up to 5th place as well. And it's going to see Sir Spud running in the top 6.
Yeah, Cameron just trundling down the pits, 37 miles an hour this pit lane because it's a street circuit. Owen's going to get past. Simon should do as well because of the speed differential.
It's going to be
close though.
Very close, but he's just in front is Simon. So he gets that position off Cameron. That's an important move for Simon, although Cameron's going to have to pit again, and you know the drivers, they're not going to be fighting each other on circuit right now. It's important for him to be in front so that he can make use of a fresh set of hard tyres. Meanwhile, further at the front, maybe Kez's tyres perhaps have gone off the edge because there's a 3-car fight for second on circuit currently.
Yes. It's going to be interesting how all this pans out. I'll just have a look at how much time Cameron lost. And it looks like he came in for his drive through about 5 seconds behind Merckx. And he's now 28.3, so it's a 23 seconds just for going down the pit lane as Owen gets past Sir Spud. So 23 seconds, and then when you go in for your pit stop, it's going to take you another 2 to 3 seconds. So you're looking at what, 25, 26 second pit stop. So Owen definitely in that pit window of Merckx.
Yeah, he's right there, and in fact Owen is comfortably in, and Simon's going to be there as well. However, the advantage that Merckx will have later on the medium tyres, he could still play a curveball, don't forget. Merckx could go and try and run those for as long as possible and go to the soft, where he'd be so rapid at the end of this race. Those two options still plentifully available for him. Now, Ginger Tiger, DRS wide open as we come around this flat corner. This isn't really a corner in the dry conditions. He's already in front as they get to the braking zone. And Keza is just going to have to hang on to those tyres before he can set a fresh set of mediums or hard tyres on, because it's going to be tough now with the drivers around him on, well, what would be better performing tyres at this point in the race. And Simon is past the Spud.
Yeah, it's just joined a bit late. It looked like Sir Spud was outside the confines of the white lines at turn 7, and yeah, I think Simon letting him go. Possibly a wise thing, but now Martin now on the back of him. I think Joe Hamster has spun once again at Lance Stroll's corner, so it's not going well. Oh, and Simon gets all sorts of tweaky out through the scene.
Yeah. I cut to that just a little bit before you did, Jordan. I think they did make contact. Oh, what a... Well, it nearly paid off for Martin. I appreciate the confidence to try it. But I think Simon and Spud made contact through the corner. This is really costing... He's running to the back of Spud again. It's all getting a bit messy, this, I have to say. Simon just has the opportunity to go through, but he's messed it up twice. Keza picks up a time penalty, and Martin's going to look to try and make a move around the outside. They're very tight together, and this has brought Cameron back into the fight, despite his tyres being so old. And that's Spud in the pits. I wonder if he's got wing damage thanks to that contact.
He did hit the wall when he got a little bit of a push from Simon. It's the problem, obviously everyone has different driving styles, obviously the setups and that, so everyone has slightly different braking points, and obviously everyone has to kind of factor that in. It just looks like Spud braked slightly earlier than Simon was expecting, causing that touch. But yeah, Cameron brought back into this, but he still has to make that pit stop.
Yeah, he does. He does. So currently, if you were to take it as it stands, you're looking at Cameron running in, well, it's going to be close between him and Spud, because Spud's just pitted for a brand new shiny set of yellow Pirelli tyres. That's the mediums that he's now on. Everybody else. Owen's now 20 seconds behind Merckx. If we're factoring a 26, 27 second pit stop, that is a comfortable margin to be in front by.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that, so I'm keeping an eye on this gap between Owen and Merckx.
What is he pulling per lap on Merckx, from what you can garner so far?
He was, about 23 seconds prior? We've had, about
3 or 4 laps?
It's not a set.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's a second a lap, because I don't think it is. I think it's probably more like half a second, but I'll keep an eye on it now, and I'll let you know after the next lap, as it's Atsu coming into the pits.
Yeah, a new set of medium tyres for Atsu, you would imagine, at this point in the race. That'll drop him behind Cameron, who of course still needs to pit. Well, it's a bit frustrating. I think Simon and Martin are going to be a bit annoyed by that squabble with Spud, because not that Spud did anything wrong, I'm not going to insinuate anything like that, but he got stuck behind him, and that's a lot of time they could have gained on Merckx. If we look at the gaps there, Martin and Simon 27, 29 seconds behind the AlphaTauri. You'd have thought those two would have been in that 26 second, 27 second pit window. We shall see, because their tyres are still going to be much faster at this point in the race than those around them. And Cameron's doing well to keep up actually with Martin, considering how old his tyres are compared to them. Back in the fight for second place, Kez has done just enough to hang on, but he's really struggling with those soft tyres, and Ryan might have a glorious opportunity to overtake the McLaren. That's more than glorious, that's straightforward, and the Alfa Romeo is up into third place. At this stage of the race, Jordan, the drivers who were on the hards, and I'm talking about Merckx and Ryan here, less so Ginger Tiger, because it'd be very difficult to take those mediums to lap 20. Not impossible, but certainly difficult. Do you think Merckx and Ryan might try and think, let's go for the mediums, or rather go for the softs rather than the mediums? Because it's looking like a window that could open for them.
It's a potential window, but again, the performance drop-off that they will have, I think, might be a little bit too big, especially around here. As we say, it's a long old lap, and it doesn't take a lot for the rear tyres to spin up. As Martin in the pits, I'm going to guess that's for damage.
It would have to be, because he's only done 5 laps on those tyres, so that is a bit of a surprise to see the Williams in the pit lane. Joel, do let us know if he gets a new front wing on his car.
It is a new wing.
He's going for softs, so he's going to have to pit again.
Unless he's working on the basis that there's probably going to be another safety car at some point.
Well, that's quite an assumption. Although, admittedly, looking at it from Martin's perspective, he's 33 seconds clear of Spud. Well, that'll come down a bit more. In fact, looking at it, that's a lot less than that now. Looking into turn 1 comes Spud, and Martin's at what, turn 4? He's just there, so it's going to be about 5 seconds, something like that. I was going to say Martin's probably working on the assumption that he's going to be far clear of Spud, but that's not going to be the case. So, will his safety car gamble pay off for him so he can have a fresh set of soft at the end?
Well, that is the question. It depends if he's got another set of fresh softs at the end, because the can't remember if Martin was one of the he would have saved a set from the sprint, but
Ryan
so
in the
get
pits.
a limited number of sets. It's interesting that Ryan's in the pits, Keza is not.
I'm amazed at Kez's tyre preservation strategy here, because he's done 11 racing laps on the soft tyres, not 13. I know he has done 13 laps, but 11 at racing speeds, as Simon goes past Ryan, who's still trundling out of the pit lane. But Ryan will come out of this in what looks to be 6th place. I think he's comfortably clear of Atsu. So despite Ryan, as I've said before, he didn't quite have the performance of everybody around him. He's kept his nose clean, and he's right there in the top 6.
Yeah, and this was the thing. He decided not to fight those who were on faster compounds than him, because he knew he'd get the advantage later on in the race. Admittedly, he is 14 seconds behind Simon at this point, but 6 lap fresher tyres as Cameron comes up just ahead of Martin after his pit stop. Owen, the last couple of laps, has taken a total of about a second out of Merckx. It was about, I think, 7/10 the first lap, and then about 3/10 the second lap. So looks like that gap is starting to settle, but it's still 19.2 as Martin goes past Cameron whilst he's on those soft tyres.
Yeah, using them well. Is that Joe in the wall again? Yeah.
Joe slinging the car around once again at the sling.
That's the second time this race that Joe's gone round at the same corner at turn 10. So it's just not worked out for Joe tonight. He's been lapped as well, but he'll still get points, and that is our race leader in the pit lane. So Owen will take the lead of this race, and Merckx has gone for the mediums, so the tyre performance advantage will still be quite significant. Let's see where Simon is. This is going to be close. On the brakes, down into turn 1. Simon's got to go for it. He knows it. And so does Merckx. And Simon gets up to what will be a net second place. We've got Ginger Tiger in the lead. Simon will be happy with that. But he knows now he's going to have to work so hard to keep that AlphaTauri behind him. And I'm going to be honest, he's got one hell of a job he's going to have to do.
Yeah, it looks like the pit stop is longer than what we thought it would be as well, because it looks like Owen was 19 seconds behind Merckx when he came in the pits, and Merckx is now 12 seconds behind.
So 31.
So a grand total of 31 seconds there.
Look at this. Oh, and Simon knows it. Simon knows it. He didn't fight it. So that is position change for third place on the circuit. Ginger Tiger still leads the way at the front. Now we've got to watch that gap between Merckx and Owen. 12 laps to go after this one. Gap is 7 seconds. Expect Merckx to start eating into that advantage for the Williams. He'll have the better tyres, but by the time he catches up to the Williams, the gap between them will obviously be a lot less, but the performance advantage won't be as much at that stage. But we'll see. We can't really estimate, can we, Jordan, in terms of how quick Merck's going to catch him.
No, I just realised my calculation was wrong. It was a 27 second loss in the pits for Merckx. 26, 27. We were correct. I based off of the time to Ginger there, who is still yet to pit. Ryan's setting the fast lap of the race, 1:33.0, so he's looking to close in on the likes of Simon.
Which will...
But this is...
that'll be the fight for the last point, won't it? Last podium.
Yes. Yeah, last podium spot and come the end of it. But this is kind of the point where everything's a little bit more spread out whilst the pit stops are being taken. And it should all close back up later on in the race.
It will do. Now, I'm looking at the gap between Ginger Tiger. I'm following Martin, but he's just lost the back end of Cameron there. Oh, a little snap of oversteer from Cameron. But Keza is 26 seconds clear of Ginger Tiger. Now, I think Ginger is going to try and run those soft tyres. I reckon that's his strategy. So he's going to come out in 7th place. We'll see how quick those soft tyres are at the end of the race. But it's going to be asking a lot of the Alpine to try and keep those soft tyres competitive later on. Martin picking up a time penalty. We've had a few time penalties this evening. I've said this before, I find it quite surprising at Singapore how drivers manage to extend the track so much to pick up the time penalties, but that is what they're doing. Gap between Ryan and Simon in the fight for the net third place. The last spot on the podium is 6.7 seconds. Ginger in the pits. Merckx is absolutely flying. The gap is 3.1, and that is a new fastest lap of the race. 1:32.275. 8 tenths quicker than Ryan's fastest lap that he's just done. Ginger on the soft tyre, and Simon is in the pits.
Yeah, let's just change to soft tyres, maybe thinking he's got a bit of a gap here, just bolt them on, see what happens. Yeah, Merck's time there. That's a bit of a time where some of the Tier 4 guys would have been happy with that time in qualifying, let alone the race.
That's very true, actually, George. We did see some 132s in qualifying for Tier 4. It just shows you the difference in speed between Tier 1 and Tier 4. Is that Joe round again at the final corner?
Third time, I think, at Strolls he's spun the cup.
I think we're going to have to... I think, unfortunately, for Joe, he's on a bit of a washing machine hunt at the moment. He's spun around that many times, but Merckx is almost within DRS of Owen, and this is almost looking, sadly for Owen, who's driven a great race, it's almost looking like a foregone conclusion if we don't get a safety car.
It is, but I think for Owen it's worth the gamble, because he can defend a little bit, but he does have 13 seconds still to Ryan, so you know he's still got that ability here to stay in at least second place and take a good result away from this feature race. Just on joke as well, I wonder if he maybe has rear wing damage.
That's a good point.
That would cause the car, especially around here, to spin quite a lot in those probably the two fastest corners of the circuit.
Merckx through into the lead of the race whilst we briefly watch Joe. Owen just moving out of the way. He didn't decide to fight that, and our championship leader is on his way for a 6th win of the season in the main races, just showing how good this guy is. Ryan then running in 3rd place. It's very close between Keza and Atsu, and they've both got a time penalty, but look who's just a couple of seconds behind him. Ginger Tiger on the soft tyres has got a very good chance of top 4, maybe even catching Ryan, but whether the tyres will still hold up by that point of the race, we don't know. I have to question Simon's pit decision here, George, because he was running in 3rd place. His hard tyres would have lasted till the end of the race. I honestly don't quite get it.
It is a weird one, unless he felt that on the hards. Because I'm pretty sure on this game, the tyres can go through a sort of graining phase sometimes, where you feel like you haven't got any grip, the tyres are gone, and a few laps later they come back to you. And I wonder if Simon kind of hit that sort of graining style phase. Maybe thought that if he continued on, that there was a chance he wasn't going to keep the car out of the wall, so preferred a softer compound just to have a bit more of a stable base underneath him.
Maybe that's the case. The soft tyres will give him that. It has brought him out just in front of Cameron. He won't want Cameron anywhere near him. I know what it can be like sometimes when you come out of the pits. You've got a quick driver behind you who's on a different compound of tyre to you. You don't want them anywhere near you. Psychologically, it can cause a bit of trouble. Speaking of psychological trouble, Keza's going to be under pressure from Ginger. More than pressure, he's gone through. The Alpine moves into 5th place, which is currently a net 4th because he's within 3 seconds of Atsu. And just to remind you, that's that time penalty that Atsu's got for extending the track, as Martin gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
This could well be a retirement, because most of the time when people are near the back and they speed in the pit lane, it could be a retirement. But Martin may well continue, because as we say, as long as you finish, you get points in this league, which is the biggest thing.
I don't think he's going to, actually, you know.
Well,
looks like he's getting
a set of softs.
Yeah, he's got a new set of softs.
Slap, maybe.
And he'll be in the top 10. I know that Spud goes through into 9th place and looking a bit more like a hot potato right now as Spud moving his way through the field. I'm sure he'll be happy with finishing in 9th, but it's got to be under pressure, I think, from Martin. But Spud driving a solid race is what you want to see. There's our race leader, Merck, running out in front. He's 6 seconds clear. He is absolutely having the time of his life. Singapore has this tendency to just go with drivers sometimes. If you've got a particular type of driving style around here, you can be so in sync with this track. And Merck just showing once again that he has all of his powers around many tracks of the calendar, but certainly this one. Ryan still in 3rd place. He's 8 seconds clear of Atsu, who's now got a blue dash in his rear wing because that Alpine has closed the gap down considerably. Simon is closing the gap to Keza as well, his on-track teammate. But we're following Ginger through turn 3. Difficult corner to get right. You can snap the car on into the wall if you're a bit too trigger happy with the throttle. This is looking pretty straightforward. It's a little brush against the wall for the Alpine, a bit of battery usage, and the DRS is wide open. And the Alpine moves into 4th place, and the question now is, can he... Oh, big slide from Atsu, well held. But the question now is, can that Alpine catch Ryan, pass him, and then survive with the tyres he's got left at the end of the race? That is going to be tough.
Yeah, that is the big thing for Simon. And just a bit of a point here, obviously, people will notice, I think that's Martin's about to mount an attack on Sir Spud coming out of turn 5.
A bit more than attack, he's overtaken him. And I don't think Spud realistically could have done much about that. So that is Spud then down into 10th place, but a finish in the top 10, and that is Joe Round again at turn 1. And I think, Jordan, your prediction is on the money. He's I want to say he's 2 laps down actually now on Merckx. He has to have some form of rear damage, because we know that Joe's a good driver. He's not the type who's going to make so many mistakes in one race. I think he's got rear wing damage. I think that's a good call from you if that turns out to be correct, Jord.
Yeah, it's too many mistakes from Joe, from a normal race perspective. So I don't really see any other thing. But this is showing to not give up if it's going horribly wrong. Joe, I mean, he could have thrown the towel in about 20 laps ago, I think. But he's obviously continuing on because he knows won't be many points, but he will get some points. Keza and Simon, I think they're on track teammates, but I think if I remember correctly, they are also teammates. They've just ended up in the same team for this week.
Oh, team friends, lovely.
And for anyone that is new to RP and wondering if you've watched the last couple of weeks and you've seen people changing cars, for example, last week Ginger was in a Haas, he's now in an Alpine, but Merck's constantly in an AlphaTauri. This is why Merckx is always in an AlphaTauri, because he still manages to win in it, and it is categorically one of the worst car on the grid.
It is, but Merckx showing all of his abilities. Jordan, just to give a bit of context for the drivers, we're on lap 26.5 to go. And to be fair, I've just noticed the gap between Ryan and Owen coming down. It's now 6 seconds. Watch out for that gap in the next few laps. But for the context of the drivers, as Joe is no, he's not in the pits. I thought he was. He's round again. Merckx, is he leading the championship in Tier 1? Or is he right there?
He is currently second behind his teammate Emir Djurkovic, who is a little bit quicker than he is, if you can believe. However, I don't have any up-to-date standings as of last night after their race, but Emir crashed out last night, and Merckx won it, so he's pulled 15 back on those standings. I'll just have a quick look. It looks like Merckx will have, 104. He'll be about 8 points behind Emir now after last night.
So that's a good bit of information for everybody in terms of context. If you're new to Invictus Racing League, that just shows you the quality of the drivers we have across all of our leagues. You know, we've got Sir Spud out on circuit. We did briefly have Nitro until he decided to fire it off into the wall at turn number 15 under safety car, rather turn 14 under safety car. But just to let you know, Sir Spud running round in the top 10 currently in the drivers' standings for that championship. I think he's outside of the top 10 if I recall correctly. I'm just going to have a look through shortly. That gap between Owen and Ryan, 6 seconds. Ginger is 4.4 behind Ryan. He is catching him, but I think it might just come too soon, the end of the race. To come back to my points, Spud running 16th in Tier 4, Nitro 10th in Tier 4 as well in the drivers' standings. So just showing you the quality of the drivers. You know, everyone is very respectable in their leagues. They get placed in the right leagues between tiers 1, 2, 3 and 4 from a pre-season evaluation event and test that they have to do. And then they get slotted into the right places. And I think it's showing tonight just how competitive this league is. There are some gaps forming, but admittedly we do have a hunt on between Simon and Keza on track anyway, because the gap is 1.3 seconds and Sai's going to have a couple of laps, I think, to try and get through. If his teammate works with him, he could get Atsu for 5th place. But I'm coming back to my comment before, Jordan. I think he made the wrong choice. I'm still a bit baffled why he pitted.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that he felt that when the Haas got to the end of the race, they'd be so worn out in reality that he'd become a bit of a sitting duck for those behind, for the likes of like Ginger and Atsu. And the problem is, the later you leave a pit stop, the less time you have to make use of your new tyres. But I mean, it's still a decent result this for Simon. If 6th, 7th area, it's still going to be a good result. And to be honest, he could actually get 5th from Atsu, because Kez is only 3 seconds behind Atsu there.
Yeah, and Atsu has that time penalty, so let's see if the McLaren boys decide to give themselves just a little bit of a swap on circuit. Keza will lose 6th place regardless if it stays as it is because of his penalty. Got to be careful because Cameron's not too far away in 8th place. Back at the... Look at the gap between Merckx and Owen. It's 17 seconds. Merckx has almost built up a pit stop to, well, get himself... If he were to pit, not that he would, of course, but if he did pit, he'd almost have an opportunity to to get on the podium again. Joe's he is in the pits this time, so he'll put a new fresh set of soft on. And hopefully he'll survive to the end of the race. I do hope that Joe doesn't get lapped again. And that's Simon past Keza. There we go. That looked a bit wide from Simon, but he got the move done before the braking zone, I think.
Yeah, a bit wide. I think Keza just let him through. Obviously, they're both teammates in this series. And to be fair, Keza also has a penalty as well, so there's no point in holding up Simon here when Simon could get into the 3-second zone of actually take that place away as well.
He's very close. He's very close. 3.2. We got a Merck's pitting. Well, I said he wasn't going to pit. He's decided to. And this is surely for a set of soft tyres. Now, where is Owen on circuit? He's going to come around the final corner. Now, we predicted it's a 27-second pit stop. Now, if Merck can do this, I'd have to say it's got to be one of the biggest cojones moves you have ever seen if he can pull it off and take a victory away from Owen. Because I'm so brave. I've got to commend him for it. Ginger, though, is going to get past him. Ginger's got soft tyres too, but those fresh softs from Merck. 7 seconds in 3 laps, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly doable, especially if it's Mercked.
I didn't know his name was Max, but we'll go with it.
There's one.
There is one immediately off the bat. He did do this sort of thing in Tier 1 at Barcelona for round 3 in Tier 1, and that didn't work for him. He was running second at the time. He ended up finishing third behind Cameron and his teammate Emir winning that race. So it's not the first time he's going to try this trick, but it's whether it's going to work out. I mean, he should have a lot more grip than Owen, who's on those 17-lap-old hards, but only time will tell.
Oh, he's going to go for it before we even get to the hairpin. He's on the inside of Ryan, and that is a move done. And I think Merck will be... my prediction is that he'll be right on the back of Owen within DRS by the end of lap 30. Because that gap is just coming down corner by corner by corner. I think Ryan will be hoping, to be honest with you, that Owen puts up a big fight, because he might be able to just squeeze that gap. That gap between Ryan still coming down. I know that this is a fight. We're watching the lead for the race in a moment, but 4.6 seconds. Ryan's took a good couple of seconds out of him. If there's any big fights between these two at the front, don't rule them out. Fastest final sector from Merck. I suspect that this fastest lap is going to be mighty compared to the rest of the field because of his fresh soft tyres.
Yes, this is going to be a very, very
Keza in the pits as well.
So, Keza, might...
He's only going to lose a spot to Cameron, so I imagine he's just going to try and get a fresh set of softs on and go for it. Everyone playing some high drinks, aren't they? Merck is already on the back of Owen within DRS. I said by the end of lap 30. I should have said he's overtaken him by the end of lap 30. I cannot see how the Williams defends from Merck here. We're on board with the AlphaTauri. Is he going to try and go there? I thought he was going to try and move there. That would have been impressive. Over the Anderson Bridge. He's going to get a run, but Owen tries to defend, and that is going to be move done, and it is. And Owen will be feeling a little bit like he's just been toyed with in the last 3 minutes. He'll be a bit annoyed with what Merck's done, but the AlphaTauri is back in the lead of the race.
Yeah, I mean, the only way of stopping this man winning races is to chuck him in an F2 car, I think.
We might have a fight though, because look at this. For the battle for the last spot on the podium, Ryan, I said he was catching Owen, but Ginger Tiger has just crept up to the back of the Alfa Romeo. New fastest lap from Merck, shock horror as he starts his final lap. Let's watch these two then. This is the closest fight on circuit, and Ginger Tiger is going to get one shot at the back of the Alfa Romeo. The battery levels are a little bit different. I won't say who's in favour of it, because it'd be unfair if either of these two are listening in and trying to get an advantage. So we've got this approach out of turn 5. It's going to be critical if you want the last spot on the podium. And the DRS is wide open for the Alpine. They hurtle towards turn number 7. And I think Ryan's got to cross the line. There we go. It's going to be Ginger trying to make a move, but he's not quite close enough. And that might just have been it. I think he just ran over the curb, and that might have just have cost him in the end. I think Joe's gone into the wall again. But Ryan putting up a good shape for a defensive move, and it stopped Ginger from getting that place.
I think Simon went off either at turn 1 or turn 3 because he's lost his
Ah.
front wing and has obviously lost position to Cameron.
Oh dear. So that move did not work out for Sai in the end, sadly. He's lost the front wing. He'll be clear of, you'd imagine he'd be clear of Keza, but we'll see come the end of the race. But let's cut forward to Merck, the man deciding to make another pit stop just to bully everybody. And he's used it to good advantage. He's 7 seconds clear as he comes round the final 2 corners. It's a sprint and a feature race victory for Merck. The championship leader does it again. Another result for him. We're going to have Owen round the final corner. It's a podium, a return to the podium for Owen. That's a good result. 20 lap old hards. And Ryan just about fending off Ginger Tiger for the last spot on the podium. Ryan doing it once again, just very subtly gets through the pack, no problems, and gets himself on the podium.
Yeah, it was smart driving at the start. He didn't lose too much time at the start on those hard tyres. And yeah, everything was very well done.
He got Sai just crossing the line with his broken front wing, going very slowly. He's not going to lose a spot. He can just coast over the line. Then there's Keza, who obliterates his teammate there as he phased through him a little bit. And then it's just Martin and Sir Spud who will come across the line. Joe already sees the checkered flag. Joe has left the session. He'll be delighted with the fact that that race is now over for him. But what do you have to do, Jordan, to beat Merckx? Because he was imperious tonight, and that's another race win to add to his championship. He's not pulled as many points as he would have hoped, though, because Ryan has finished third, still right there, despite how dominating the performance was from the AlphaTauri.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say the early stages, Merckx was slightly pushed for the first couple of laps, but once he broke that DRS, as we've seen on a number of occasions, once he breaks that DRS, he just gets away. Ryan picks up driver of the day, which is probably correct, to be fair, for this one. I mean, you could say Merckx, but let's face it, Ryan probably had a more exciting race than Merckx did.
Just to confirm, Joe did have rear wing damage, so George, you were right on the money with that prediction. Let's run through your final classification then from the race here for the Realistic Performance League. Merckx, once again, it's another race victory and fastest lap point to boot as well. Owen in second, Ryan taking another podium this season. Ginger Tiger in fourth place with Atsu in fifth. Cameron ending up in sixth place with Simon and Keza, the two McLarens together on circuit. Thanks to Martin's penalties, Spud ends up ninth. Well done to him. And Martin obviously rounding out the top 10. Joe finishes 3 laps down, but it's important for points. He will take those gladly after that nightmare of his rear wing. We lost Nitro Gash thanks to the safety car the safety car that was caused by Phantom's accident, which saw him retire. Nitro crashing into the wall at turn 14, saw his race over before he really had the chance to do much with it.
Yeah, it was a bit scrappy at the start, but come the end, there was some fantastic battling going on. And I think this is probably one of the quicker races we've had. 52 minutes and 40 seconds.
That's quite quick.
I don't know what the tier 2 is 49 minutes and 23, so the second quickest race time for the week, as far as my information is concerned. Obviously the quickest one being the one without a safety car.
Well, we are here at the end of 2 very fascinating races here at Singapore. There's been a lot going on. I've asked for comments from Merckx, Owen and Ryan, because I can't imagine, Jordan, they'd be able to join the party, would they? I don't think. No,
I have also asked them as well, so we've got one in from Merckx already.
I do. Do you want to talk through Merckx?
Yeah, we'll go for Merckx. Obviously, our winner. He said congrats to the podium. He said it was a difficult sprint, as he didn't have much better pace than the guys ahead of him, and just struggled, but he managed to find some pace in the main race, and he's glad to have got on fast lap as well.
Apparently, yeah.
I was going to say, he puts thanks for the idea of pitting, by the way. I'm not quite sure when we said that, but
I said he
obviously,
wasn't going to pit, and I think he's decided to spite me and decide. Because I was talking about where he would come out in third or fourth. So Merck deciding to take a bit of advice from the commentator, which is dreadful.
I mean, it's definitely a risky business, isn't it? When
It
we tell you to
is.
do something.
You say that though, but on a personal level, me and you, I believe, are first and second in the drivers' championship in Tier 4. So maybe our tactics are not quite good. We've got a comment from Owen. He says, GG to Merck and Ryan, just couldn't do anything to fight Merck, unfortunately. Nice to have a decent race again without completely binning like usual. Need to watch back what happened with Phantom, but apologies to him that it caused a DNF. I don't think it did. If I remember rightly, Jordan, I don't think it wasn't actually the contact between him and Phantom that caused Phantom to crash out. It was the contact when Phantom was trying to rejoin the circuit with Simon, wasn't it?
Well, it was an interesting incident, really, because it looked like in the braking phase coming into the corner, it looked like Owen was trying to get as close as he could to the wall, whilst trying to give Phantom a bit of space. And I think there was a bit of contact going into the corner, which set them both wide.
Yeah.
But then obviously that didn't DNF Phantom. The DNF came when he tried to rejoin the track and ended up hitting the side of a McLaren, and that pinged him round back into the wall. Ryan, who is third place, said he'd rather not talk about the sprint. He managed to keep it clean in the feature race, didn't really have great pace on the hards, but stuck to his strategy. That put him in a good place, and luckily he had good initial pace on the second stint. This is due to the podium.
Well, that is a roundup from our podium finishes then. So, for Invictus Racing League tonight and for this week, that is it. That is the conclusion of tonight's exciting action. Next week, there's no action because it's break week, the last break week of the season for Invictus, so no racing on that front, but we will be back on I believe it's going to be the 6th of November, the week commencing 6th of November. George, you're going to say something to cut me off, go on.
I am, yeah. There is one race next week on Wednesday for the Tier 1 rerun of Abu Dhabi.
There we go, that was one that happened earlier, that was the day when PSN decided to go down, didn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that's very true.
Absolute mass chaos. So Wednesday, the only race next week.
So if you do want to join in next week, then you can watch Tier 1 at least on Wednesday. That'll be kicking off at 8 o'clock British Standard Time, and sure enough, George, who's right with me now, will be commentating on that alongside Lee as well. For the rest of the tiers, though, they'll be back in action on this week commencing the 6th of November at China. Back on the calendar for the first time in some time with Invictus. I believe it's been 3 seasons since we last raced around China, so that's going to be great to see. But for tonight, that has been a lot of great action that I've always enjoyed commentating on. But, as always, it's bye from Jordan.
Good night.
It's bye from me, Jack TM53. And wherever you might be in the big wide world, have a good one. See you soon.